12 and my name is YASMIN SHAFIKA Binti HASMANLIZAN. My metric number is 076979. So in this presentation, we will be discussing about the rights and obligations of the three parties in this case, which are Teknik Perkasa Sedia Berhad, TPSB, Bidang Maju Sedia Berhad, BMSB, and also the Pembinaan Maju Sedia Berhad, PUSB. So this presentation consists of few topics, which are the validity of the contract, the doctrine of caveat emptor, the transfer of risk and property, the acceptance of good, and also the damages.
Hi, my name is MOHAMAD ZULKIFLI. My matrix number is 07839. So, I'm the first person who gonna discuss about first issue, which is my first issue is whether there's a valid contract between Teknik Perkasa Sedia Berhad and Bina Maju Sedia Berhad. To Section 10 of Contract Act, a valid contract requires offer, acceptance, consideration, and intention to create legal relation. And additionally, to establish a valid formation of contract, it must align with Sale of Goods Act 1957, or as called as SOGA. Under the Sale of Goods, a valid contract of sale is formed when fifth provision are satisfied. One of them, we can refer to the Section 4, Subsection 1 of the SOGA, where this section defines a contract of sale as an agreement where the seller transfer or agrees to transfer property in goods to the buyer for a price. Next, we can refer to the Section 5, Subsection 1 and Section 5, Subsection 2, where it's stated that whereby a contract made by them is an offer and acceptance, and a contract of sale may be made in writing, orally, or implied by conduct. And we can refer to the Section 6 of SOGA, where it's stated that goods can be existing or future goods. And last but not least, we can refer to the Section 9 of SOGA, where it emphasizes that the price must be fixed, determined by the cost of dealings, or left to be determined. Also, next we can refer to the case of law. In the case of Philips vs. Book Ltd, the court dealt with the formation of a contract for the sale of goods. The case concerned whether a valid contract was formed when a buyer made an offer to purchase an item and the seller accepted it. The court held that a contract of sale is valid if the offer is accepted, the goods are identified, and the price is agreed, which is aligned with Section 4, Subsection 1, Section 5, Subsection 1, and Sale of Goods of SOGA. To the application of the law, which I stated just now. First, to apply in the case of Teknik Perkasa Sedia Berhad and Bumi Maju Sedia Berhad, the contract between them valid as it meets this requirement mentioned in Section 10 of Contract Act 1950. And the provision mentioned that TPSB, which is Teknik Perkasa, and Bumi Maju, which is BMSB, has all the offer, acceptance, consideration, and has the intention to create legal relation. But how about under SOGA, which is under Section 4, Section 1 of the Sale of Goods Act, where TPSB agreed to sell 5 units of concrete mixes to Bumi Maju Sedia Berhad for Rm500,000, establishing an agreement for the transfer of property in good for a price. Next is the establishment of offer and acceptance under Section 5, Subsection 1 of SOGA. The contract said to be valid when Teknik Perkasa and Bumi Sakti has offer and acceptance. And Section 5, Subsection 2 of the Sale of Goods is stated that the contract exists expressly in the form of writing. And in addition to Section 6 of SOGA, the goods agreed to be sold must be capable of delivery. This has been proven when the concrete mixes were existing goods already in TPSB's possession at the time of the contract. Last but not least, we can refer to the Section 9 of SOGA. It emphasizes that the contract has the price clear and agreed upon. To apply, as we know, both parties have cleared the fixed amount. The price of Rm500,000 was expressly agreed upon, with the payment terms explicitly stated in the contract. Therefore, all the elements necessary are already satisfied under SOGA. Meanwhile, to apply the case of Philips vs. Book Ltd, the offer made by TPSB was clearly accepted by BMSB or Bumi Maju. The goods, which is concrete mixers, were identified and the price was expressly agreed upon. Therefore, the contract is valid under Section 4, Subsection 1 and Section 5, Subsection 1 of SOGA, as it satisfies the necessary condition for the formation of a contract of sale. In conclusion, the formation of contract between Teknik Perkasa Sedia Berhad and Bumi Maju Sedia Berhad is valid and enforceable.
Assalamualaikum and good day. I be to Dr. Iliana. So today I'm going to explain on the exception to the doctrine of caveat emptor. So the issue that arises in this case for the exception to the caveat emptor is whether there is an exception that Bina Maju Sedia Berhad can use against the doctrine of caveat emptor for the defect of goods provided by the teknik perkasa sedang melihat. Based on the doctrine of caveat emptor, the buyer must exercise care in their purchases or else he will bear the consequences. Generally, no implied warranty as to the fitness or quality of the goods. However, there are exceptions as stated in Section 16, Subsection 1, Paragraph A of the Sales of Goods Act 1957. The first requirement that the buyer must profess is there must be disclosure of purposes from the buyer. Buyer must inform the seller of the specific purpose for the goods explicitly or impliedly to ensure suitability for that purpose. This principle has been stated in the case of Priest and Last, which a buyer purchased a hot water bottle from a chemist for heating purposes. The bottle burst during use, causing injury. The court held that the seller liable as the buyer's purpose was implied. To apply to our case, BMSB disclosed its needs for heavy-duty concrete mixer for construction purposes. TPSB, as the supplier, knowing this, was obligated to provide mixers fit for the stated purpose. The second requirement needed is there must be a reliance on the seller's skill and judgment. The buyer must rely on the seller's expertise in selecting goods fit for their stated purpose. This has been stated in the case of Gill Spice Works and Cheney Egger and Company, where the court stated that mere disclosure of purpose could establish reliance. To apply to our case, by disclosing the purpose of the mixers, BMSB demonstrated reliance on TPSB's skill and judgment. TPSB was expected to supply mixers that match construction standards. The third requirement needed is goods within seller's business scope. The good must be of a type that the seller normally supplies in their course of business. This principle has been stated in the case of Spencer Trading Company Limited and Devon, where the court had that the seller liable for supplying goods not fit for the stated purpose as they were within the seller's business scope. TPSB's business involved supplying construction equipment, including concrete mixers. As the mixers are part of TPSB's regular trade, they are liable for defects during the sale period. Last requirement is the goods not bought under the trade name or patent. Reliance on the seller's judgment is invalidated if the buyer explicitly selects goods under a trade name or patent. This has been illustrated in the case of Bagri and Marshall, where a buyer requested a car for touring and relied on the dealer's judgment. A Bugatti car was sold but found unsuitable for touring. The court held that the seller is liable as the buyer relied on their skills despite the car's trade name. To apply to the TPSB and the MSB issue, the contract did not indicate reliance on the trade name or patent. Instead, Bina Maju Sedang Melihat depended on the TPSB's expertise to supply suitable heavy-duty mixers. The provision of refurbished mixers and defect contradicted the implied condition of merchantable quality. Thus, TPSB is liable for defective goods and BMSB can claim an exception to the doctrine of caveat emptor.
Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is AMZAR, metric number 076741. So today I'll be discussing about the legal issues of transfer of property and transfer of risk under the SOGA Act 1957 involving Teknik Perkasa Jalan Berhad, TPSB and Bina Maju Jalan Berhad, BMSB. So let's start with the transfer of property first. So in the issue, whether the property in the concrete mixers was transferred from TPSB to BMSB, considering there is still an outstanding payment of 300,000 ringgit. Under Section 19 Clause 1 of SOGA Act 1957, property in good passes when it is in the intention of the parties for it to pass, as indicated by the terms of the contract, conduct and circumstances. Section 18 Clause 1 further clarifies that for specific goods in deliverable state, property passes when the contract is made upon agreement otherwise. In the case of tenant against Skinner and Collin, the court held that property remains with the seller if the contract specifies full payment as a condition for transfer. Similarly, in the case of Worcester Works Finance against Kuden Engineering, the court upheld retention of title clauses, reinforcing that property does not pass to the buyer until the payment condition is fulfilled. So to apply these laws to our case, the contract states that the property in the mixes will pass to BMSB only upon full payment. Since BMSB has not paid the remaining 300,000 ringgit, this condition has not been satisfied. Even though TPSB has delivered the mixes and BMSB has used them, the retention of this off-title clause ensures that the property remains with TPSB. This aligns in the case of Canyon against Skinner and Column, and the case of Rochester Works Finance against Kudin Engineering. Additionally, BMSB cannot resell the mixes to Pembinaan Utama Sdn because they do not legally own them. Thus, in conclusion, the property in the mixes has not been transferred to BMSB due to the unpaid balance. Thus, TPSB retained the legal ownership. So moving on to the second issue, which is whether the risk of damage or loss transferred to BMSB upon delivery of the concrete mixes, especially since the mixes were defective. Under Section 20 Clause 1 of the SOGA Act 1957, the risk of damage or loss transfers with the property unless otherwise agreed. However, parties may separate the transfer of risk and property by agreement. In the case of Stearns against Vickers, the court ruled that the risk can pass before property if the contract explicitly states it. Additionally, in the case of Denby Hamilton against Baden, the seller was held liable for defective goods, even though the risk had passed to the buyer, highlighting the importance of implied conditions like merchantable quality or fitness for purposes. To apply this, the contract states that the risk would transfer to BMSB upon delivery. Therefore, the risk of damage or loss passed to BMSB when the mixes were delivered in 2023 of February. However, the mixes were defective at delivery. One experienced frequent mechanical failures, and the other showed signs of refurbishment. Despite the transfer of risk, TPSB is still liable under Section 16 of SOGA 1957, as the mixes did not meet the implied conditions of merchantable quality and fitness for heavy-duty construction work. This breach makes TPSB responsible for the defects and the resulting damages, including project delays and additional costs incurred by BMSB. In conclusion, while the risk was transferred to BMSB upon delivery, TPSB remains liable for the defective mixes due to the breach of implied conditions. BMSB is entitled to claim damages for the losses caused by these defects. So to summarize everything up, the property in the mixes remain with TPSB due to the unpaid balance, while the risk transferred to BMSB upon delivery. However, TPSB's liability for the defective mixes persists under the SOGA Act 1957.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad ISHAK. So today I'll be talking on the part of the acceptance part. So the key issue here is whether BMSB accepted the concrete mixes under Section 42 of the Sale of Goods Act 1957 by retaining and using them for their initial project. Section 37 of the Act requires sellers to deliver goods as described in the contracts without mixing them with others. If goods delivered are mixed with those not described in the contract, the buyer can either reject the entire consignment or accept only the goods that conform to the contract. In the case of associated concrete products, the buyer rejected an entire shipment after some goods were defective, which the court upheld under Section 37 subsection 3. Applying this, BMSB discovered defects in 2 of the 5 mixes delivered by TPSB and had the right to reject all the mixes due to the non-compliance with contract terms. However, Section 42 of the Act outlines conditions under which a buyer is deemed to have accepted the goods. First, by express acceptance or retaining goods beyond a reasonable time, without rejection. Second, dealing with goods in a way that assumes ownership, for example, using or selling them. And thirdly, failing to reject goods within a reasonable time. In Quated Chow versus British Traders and Shippers, a buyer's delay in rejecting defective goods was deemed acceptance. Similarly, BMSB retained the mixes and delayed returning them to TPSB, indicating acceptance under this section. Moreover, in Varley versus Witt, a buyer who used a defective machine before rejecting it was held to have accepted the goods. In BMSB's case, despite identifying defects, they used the mixes for their project and withheld payment, citing a breach of merchantable quality. This use signal acceptance, preventing later rejection of the mixes. So in conclusion, under Section 42 of the Sale of Goods Act 1957, BMSB is deemed to have accepted the mixes.
My name is Shakila BINTI FADELI, number matric 078282. Next is the remedies and damages to target percusses in Berhad where the TPSB can sue BMSB for the refusal to pay the outstanding payment of 300,000 ringgit. This can be referred to the law, section 55, subsection 2 of the SOGA 1957. If the buyer fails to pay for the goods when payment is due, then the seller can sue for the price even if the goods are not delivered or ownership has not been transferred. Section 42. Buyer is also deemed to have accepted goods if they act in a manner inconsistent with established ownership. This can be referred to the case of Dunlop and others against Group and Booker. The facts of the case is the payment obligation remains despite buyer's breach if the seller meets their obligations. This applies to this case where BMSB use of the mixers signals acceptance of the goods, retaining and using the goods is inconsistent with rejecting them, and the ownership of the mixers hasn't transferred, but BMSB must pay the outstanding amount of 300,000 ringgit. BMSB is also wrongfully neglected their payment obligation, thus the mixers' minor defects do not void the claim for payment since they were used by BMSB for construction. In conclusion, TPSB is legally entitled to sue BMSB for the 300,000 ringgit outstanding payment as BMSB actions indicate acceptance. Next is the second remedies to Bina Maju Syndrome Berhad, whether BMSB can claim damages from TPSB for breach of warranty due to the defective mixers, which caused a delay in BMSB's project and required additional costs for renting replacement equipment. The law applied in this case is Section 59 of the SOGA, where breach of warranty does not allow the buyer to reject goods, and it can also be referred to the case of QQ Trading Sdn Berhad and Hongcheng Seafood Supplies Sdn Berhad. It upheld that buyers counterclaim under Section 59 of the SOGA for damages due to breach of warranty. Under Section 59, subsection 2 of the SOGA, it allows the buyer who has suffered a breach of warranty to pursue two separate courses of action. In this case, two mixers delivered by TPSB were defective, and these defects breach implied conditions of merchantable quality and fitness for intended purpose. BMSB is also entitled to claim for damages incurred beyond and reduced value of the goods. To conclude, BMSB has the right to claim damages for breach of warranty and additional costs due to the defective mixers delivered by TPSB.
My name is Muhammad bin Normali. My metric number is 078246. The issue is whether peminat utama Sdn Berhad PUSB can claim a refund due to BMSB breach of condition under their contract for the sale of goods by description. Section 15 of the Sale of Goods Act 1957 implies that goods sold by description must match the description provided. If they do not, it constitutes a breach of condition, allowing the buyer to reject the goods and resign the contract. This principle is highlighted in case Nagurdas Poshutumdas against Mitsui Busan Kaisha. A breach was found when the flour delivered lacked the specified trademark despite matching the quality described, as the good did not correspond fully with the contract description. And in case Bali against Wheat, where a machine described as a practically new was found to be old. In both cases, the court ruled that the buyer could reject the goods and cancel contract as the execution was central to their purchase decision. So we relate into the situation. In the contract between PUSB and BMSB, the transaction relied entirely on BMSB description of the mixer as a new, but PUSB relied on the entire description mixer as a new. PUSB did not inspect the mixer before purchase, making the accuracy of the description critical. However, the mixer delivered were refurbished, not new, which constitute a significant diversion from the contract. Following the precedent, description of new formed the basis of PUSB purchase and their reliance on it was reasonable. So, in conclusion, BMSB's breach of this condition under Section 50 of SOGA 1957 entitled PUSB to reject the mixer, resign the contract, and claim a full refund. This aligns with the legal protection and case law which emphasize the importance of seller adhering to their description in contract of this nature.
So in conclusion, the three parties in this case have their rights and obligations that need to be fulfilled. Once a party breaches their obligations, the other party will have the advantage to claim for their rights, which are the damages. which can be seen in both situations between TPSB and BMSB, and also the situation between PMSB and PUSB. Thank you.